Santa Claus has came and gone, and he's left us the gift of the college football playoffs. It's college football round number 2 coming up. You want to stay tuned for our best bets episode. College football playoffs round number 2 coming up right now. Welcome, football fans, to another edition of the D-Gen Talk, special holiday edition here. College football playoffs. Don't forget about them. I know we have a very weird schedule if they brought it to us, and then we have a week and a half off, but we're ready. It is time for college football round number 2, best bets and picks episode. What is up, folks? I'm one of your hosts here, the D-Gen Doc, and more importantly, I'm joined by my brother in degeneracy, Mr. Derek Bennett, aka Professor Locks. How we doing tonight, brother?
Not too bad. A little. What's that?
Today, tonight, whatever time this is here.
Yeah, right.
Schedule.
Yeah, no, I just a little Christmas hangover. You know, it's always nice to have the holiday, spend all the time with the friends and the family, and it's great. But you know, it's kind of nice to just relax after the holiday hoopla. You know.
Yeah, and hopefully, you know, a great thing for Christmas hangovers, a little hair of the dog here, got a little mimosi going.
There you go.
Hard to drink all day if you don't start in the morning.
Yeah, I'm really liking your hat there. I'm really liking the hat. It's a good look.
This was a find.
You could definitely tell that you frequent yourself around the swamp, and you know
it's a very Florida.
Put that on with your bib overalls, you're good to go.
Yeah, look, this would be a very Florida thing. This is can't take all the credit there. This is courtesy of the in-laws here. Great find in the man cave here. But hey, folks, this is the college football playoff round number 2 best bets episode. If you have been rocking with us all season, cheers to you for coming back for another episode. It's playoff time. It's time to lock in. We've got only a few games left in the college football season. But hey, if it's your first time, a little bit of show expectations, what you can expect here today. We're breaking down the 4 playoff games. Pretty simple. We'll do some takeaways of the first round playoffs, a little bit of some college football coaching news, and then we'll look at some futures markets here. Obviously, some things have changed. Some prices have got better. Some prices have gotten worse. But ultimately, 4 games breakdown, and we will finish up with our best bet segments where we each give out a lock, a dog, and a money line parlay for you folks. Okay, man. Let's start with the college football reactions. We saw one round. We saw a slate of 4 games. Some good, some not so good. Curious on your thoughts here. I will throw up the scores and obviously looking at the matchups going forward. But let's focus on round 1 here for a second. Any major takeaways from round 1? Things that maybe surprised you, things that maybe went as expected. You know, where were you at there?
Yeah, I mean, I was. I'm glad that in those 2 quote unquote blowout games, I was on the right side of both of those. I thought that Ole Miss would carry the flag outside of the whole Lane Kiffin saga that was, and would be able to take care of Tulane just as they did a couple months before that. The bigger surprise was probably that wind in down there in Texas with that Miami and Texas A&M game. I mean, holy smokes! We know that college kickers kind of suck, but
that was great.
I don't know if anybody would have had a whole lot of luck in that game.
Yeah. No, that was just such an epitome of college kickers. It was a hilarious game. Even the Texas Tech situation was bad coming in. That was a known thing. But Miami's kicker had actually been one of the best in the country.
Yeah.
That was very funny from that aspect. Now, both of us were on A&M, so it was not funny in the fact that A&M, for the better part of that game, seemed to dominate.
Couldn't get much going on.
Yeah. I mean, the yards wise,
that's true.
Were really kind of moving the ball. But Marcel Reed had multiple turnovers.
Yep.
He, as I say, out Carson Beck in the sense of, he kind of blew the game for the team.
Yep.
No one can blame the defenses. Definitely really on either side. But
Malachi Tony did his best to give it back to Texas A&M, but it turns out it didn't matter. They couldn't move the ball when they did have good field position there, and ended up putting the knife in in
He did
the
gave out the anytime touchdown on
That's
X
right.
that gave out the first touchdown. We waited until the fourth quarter, waiting minutes, but he did come through there.
That's right.
Even though did not want Miami to pull that out. But credit to them, they fought, they battled,
Yep.
went into a very hostile environment,
Yep.
and they got it done. Now, speaking of the Group of Five games, I think that if you look at the Tulane game, it was a little bit similar in the sense of they moved the ball
They
pretty
did.
darn well.
Yeah.
They just turned the ball over, had some.
Yeah, I came out of that game thinking that Retzlaff is pretty solid. I mean, he just
Not bad. They got some
they just
players.
don't have enough around him really
Right.
to go up against an Ole Miss. I mean, their defense was struggling most of the game,
Oh, man.
and front five offensive line did okay against Ole Miss's
Yeah.
front seven, but man, I mean, it's not saying a whole lot when you're going up against a defense like Ole Miss.
Yeah. That's true. Yeah, we'll get right into that. But I think that, Tulane, the score what definitely looks worse than it was. You could probably argue the opposite in the James Madison Oregon game. That game that was definitely a backdoor.
James Madison, yeah,
Yeah.
definitely started to chip away in the second half once the
Right.
third stringers were in.
Foot off the gas type thing. But I think both group of fives that we're pretty pro group of five here.
Yep.
I would have liked a better performance, a little bit closer to some scores, but I don't think it was embarrassing the way that people are kind of parading it around to be.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a lot more ugly football in the Miami A&M game than
Yes.
anything. So,
Agreed.
but it was a good round. I would say, for the most part, the teams we thought were going to win at least 3 out of the 4. We were kind
Yeah.
of right there. And then the Miami game would be the surprise, at
Yeah.
least for me. But, it really wasn't the play on the field. It was the end result because A&M, for what I thought, dominated the most part of that game. But it was a good first round. I thought that the first 2 games especially were pretty close and competitive till the end.
Yeah.
Now, this second round, though, I think is really set up to be a really juggernaut versus
Yeah.
juggernaut.
This was a tough week to pick games, but I think we got some winners on the sheet here. Yeah, it'll be really fascinating come New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. Who really takes care of business here?
Yeah. All right. Talking about some coaching notes really quickly. The biggest news, at least that I've seen since we last talked,
Yeah.
just kind of broke today.
Yeah.
Kyle Whittingham is now the main target within talks with the University of Michigan to become their head football coach. Obviously, just to catch up to speed, Utah and Whittingham kind of parted ways. It wasn't like got fired in any way. It kind of was more people thought. I almost thought he was retiring. But it was
Yeah.
more, he even said, it's just kind of a separation. It's just time. He's kind of taking them to where he can. And then he's still interested in coaching, clearly. And obviously, Michigan with the Sharon Moore stuff, neither of us really thought he was going to be the guy. We didn't think he would be a crazy guy.
Right.
But
Right.
clearly, all that mess going on. As a Buckeyes fan, what are your thoughts on, let's say Michigan does go ahead and hire Kyle Whittingham?
Yeah. I mean, I'm not loving it necessarily because I do think Kyle Whittingham is one of the best, probably 15, 20 coaches in the country. I mean, he's a
Right.
guy that brought Utah to relevancy over the past 10, 15 years here. I mean, the Utes are in the vicinity where recruiting isn't necessarily easy. They're not down in the South. They're not on the West
Prestigious
Coast.
program.
Yeah, I mean, Kyle Whittingham brings a style of football that I think Michigan relates to.
Yep.
Michigan. Everybody always talks about Michigan men and those kind of things, whatever the fuck that means.
Well,
But
it's been a little shady of what that means character-wise, but
yeah,
on the football
exactly.
field,
Exactly.
they've
But
got a clear play style.
he likes to play, or his teams resemble a style in which Michigan tends to play,
Yeah.
and I think the big thing for the University of Michigan is they are really kind of in the hot seat because only 6 days from now, I think it's 6 days, 6, 7 days from now, that transfer portal starts
Yeah.
to open up,
Yeah, I think it's
and
the
you
first
have
week in
some
September.
talent on that Michigan roster, and it's like, okay, do I enter the transfer portal or do I not, based on what's to come? And
Yeah, they do need to make
if
a
you
move.
have no idea, you got to make a decision, and probably the easiest decision is, well, they have no fucking clue what's going on up here at Michigan. I'm
Yeah.
just gonna hop somewhere that does know what's going on. And, I think if they get this, done, it sounds like they could possibly get this done today. I think it would be a decent hire.
Yeah, no, I almost equate this to the Penn State situation where they just kind
Yeah,
of lucked themselves into a what I would think is a slam dunk home run hire. I think Whittingham's an even better coach than Campbell. He's been doing it longer, and
yeah,
he's got the track record. But look,
sure.
Urban Meyer kind of brought Utah to some relevancy before,
In
but
the early
he took
2000s,
them
yeah,
from the Group of Five to the Pac-12 in Whittingham
right,
and really made them a Pac-12 powerhouse. And they don't have the same level of recruiting as the USC's and the Oregons of the world, but they'll punch you in the mouth, and they're a disciplined and physical team,
yep,
which, when successful, that's what Michigan wants to be. They want
right,
to run the ball 30 straight times. They want to play really solid defense and be a disciplined team, force
yep,
you to make mistakes, and just beat you down with toughness.
yep.
And he's
Which
the
is
perfect coach.
hilarious because they went out and got a guy in
Underwood.
Bryce Underwood that I guess he can do that, but I mean, that dude has arm talent out the wazoo.
He does. He
I
doesn't
mean,
really have wide receiver talent, but he's got some damn talent. Yeah, that would be interesting. I know LSU and Lane is trying to poach a quarterback right now. We'll see there what happens.
yeah,
I would that would be a loss for Michigan, but like in a Kyle Whittingham style offense,
right,
they're gonna be predicated on the running game and a running
yeah,
quarterback typically.
yeah,
So we'll see. But I do think that overall he would be a really like wow, like we're kind of in a desperate situation. You're at the back end of a coaching cycle, like there's
oh,
really not a lot
probably past
left.
it. Yeah,
Yeah, and you're now going to kind of walk yourself into this situation.
right,
So, similar to Penn State, I think this would be basically the best they could do at this point. And overall, like you said, I do think he's a top 15, top 20 coach in college football. So, yeah, that would be interesting. I was surprised to see that. Michigan fans, I would imagine, have to be happy if they have any sense about themselves, walking themselves into that one.
no
All
doubt.
right, looking forward here, we've got the college football playoff. We're talking future prices right now. This is to win the national championship here. Actually, before we do that, let's go ahead and let's do a quick recap of
Yeah,
last week, as we always do. A little bit of our transparency check. Well, I hope you listened to Derek last week because he went a solid 3-1, hitting his lock, which was Bama money line,
yep,
which didn't look great in the first half. Well, first quarter, really. By halftime, it was tied.
yeah,
And then Bama kind of walked away with it. Myself, not so good of a day. Again, we did hit the Malachi Tony. We did hit the over in the Friday game
right,
and the first touchdown for Tony, but not really a whole lot there. It was on the opposite sides. Believed in Tulane. Believed that Oregon and JMU were going to play a smither of defense. Did not happen.
yep,
Did not happen. A&M really hurt. That was a tough one. I was completely wrong on that one. Marcel Reed really tried to do his best Carson Beck impersonation. Didn't
right,
appreciate it. But eyes looking forward, moving forward here. We're going to futures market. We're just going to talk of the 8 teams remaining. Let's talk championship prices and see if there's any movement here of what you think for futures. Biggest mover, I would say, one of the biggest. Indiana was, I think it was, Ohio State, Indiana. These are over at DraftKings. These prices, it was like 2 + 250 +240. They were pretty much neck and neck, almost co-favorites
yep,
to when we started this thing. Now heading into round number 2, you got Indiana plus 390, plus 320, Ohio State plus 190 as the clear cut favorite. You got Georgia plus 475, Texas Tech plus 850,
yep.
Oregon plus 750, Ole Miss 25-1, Bama 18-1, and Miami 22-1. Curious on your thoughts there. Let's first talk Indiana, Ohio State. Why do you think that now Ohio State is kind of a overwhelming favorite compared to Indiana?
Yeah, I think this is kind of a two-pronged approach here. I think, as a whole, I think Ohio State's been bet down a little bit. I think,
Hmm.
with them being the favorite, everybody wants to jump on the favorite to begin with, and I think they've kind of driven the price down a little bit. But I also think part of this is, with Miami taking out Texas A&M, they play in the Cotton Bowl, which is played in Dallas. If Texas A&M would have been playing in that game, you would have been traveling basically into to a home game for Texas A&M.
Yeah.
That's not going to be the case. I mean, Miami travels, but Ohio State travels as well. So that's going to be a neutral site field.
Yeah,
So I think that does. I think just matchup wise,
it's a
the
good point.
Buckeyes up against Miami, just
Path gets a little easier.
the
Yeah.
path gets a little bit easier. So yeah, I think the path gets a little bit easier for the Buckeyes, driving that price down. But also, I think people just like betting on favorites, so the price probably dropped a little bit there too.
Yeah, yeah, and Bama coming out and said Oklahoma,
Yeah,
much more public team, much more of a
true.
team that's gonna have
Big
people
name.
just blindly bet the logo there with Bama,
Yep.
which is perfectly fine with us, and I think provides some good opportunity there. Yeah, I think overall we talked about the futures last episode.
Yep.
We both kind of, I believe, what futures did you give out? Let me see here.
Future wise, I gave out Texas A&M or Texas Tech, excuse me, Texas Tech and Oregon,
Okay,
which we all assumed would be playing in this game
right,
coming up on the first.
correct.
That one is a little bit surprising as well because going off of our round one lines, Texas Tech was 800
Yeah,
or plus 800. Oregon was 9-1. So now Oregon is a little bit favored compared
yeah.
to Texas Tech. So that kind of flip-flopped there. Obviously, Oregon had to beat a JMU team, but I think everybody kind of expected that already. So that
That
was a
is
little bit interesting to me.
Yeah, that is true, and we'll get to that game. So, I gave out Texas Tech as well. That's still, obviously the one I'll be riding.
Mhm.
And yeah, I'm curious. I guess, yeah, they are a favorite in that game. We'll get to it, but I guess that's why it flipped a little bit. Curious because Oregon just kind of did what they were supposed to,
Right.
and didn't even cover a spread. Now I know that was backdoored, and it is what it is. But yeah, I'm curious why maybe again people just like betting an Oregon team that they saw, and
Right.
Texas Tech in the Big 12 doesn't get a whole lot of love. So
Well, that and I mean, just looking back at last year, I mean, I think 3 of the 4, if not all 4 of the teams that got a bye, in the first round last year got beat outright.
that's true.
So, that might be playing a little bit into this as well with Oregon playing this, a week and a half or, a week and a half ago, versus a Texas Tech team that hasn't played in basically a month.
Yeah, no, absolutely. All right, let's now get into what we all came here for. We are going to break down this college football playoff round number 2. Now, we are going to, of course, start out with the first game on the slate, which is going to be on Wednesday, December 31st here. We are going, as you mentioned, to Arlington, Texas, to a game that you are going to be very much paying attention to because
Yep.
we've got the number 10 team in the land, the 11-2 Miami Hurricanes, heading to Arlington to take on the number 2 12-1 Ohio State Buckeyes, defending national champions. You've got Miami catching 9.5 points. They are plus 280 on the money line. Ohio State minus 355 as the favorite there, and over under sitting at 42.5. Obviously, a neutral site game in AT&T Stadium in Jerry's World, which means we do not have to worry about any weather there in
Right.
that dome with the massive, massive TV.
Right.
So, where are we going in this one? Obviously, these two teams have not played each other.
Nope.
ACC Big Ten matchup. I don't even know the last time these two teams have played each other.
I do. That'd be the
Okay.
2002 national title game in
Mm,
which the Buckeyes brought one home from, I think it was Tempe, Arizona at that point in the Fiesta Bowl.
there we
But
go. That's why you're on this show.
overall, these 2 teams have faced each other 4 times in their history, each of them
Okay.
winning twice. So this will be the kind of the tiebreaker,
Ooh.
um, going in here.
All right. Where are you going in this one?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I watch pretty much any Buckeye game that I can, and I know them pretty well.
Right.
But Miami's had a few big games that I've tuned into. We all know that Carson Beck is okay at quarterback, but I think that the Buckeyes can get
Sure.
after him and force him into some precarious situations and can turn him over. The question that I have is, and I just mentioned it a couple minutes ago, with Ohio State having that rest despair or discrepancy kind of a thing.
Sure.
But they might be a little bit rusty. I think this whole thing with Ryan Day taking back the play calling after not having it the last couple of seasons is going to be interesting.
Yes, true. Yeah.
With Brian Hartline going down there to Central
USF.
USF, Southern Florida. Yes,
Did he leave though, or is he still going to be coaching at all, or is he
he
gone?
might. I think he's still going to be around,
Hmm.
but he's basically just going to coach wide receivers. I think.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, anyways, my question is, what will they look like in the first quarter?
Yeah.
And how much rust will there be in that Ohio State offense? Because the last time we saw their offense, it wasn't real great against an Indiana team that has a pretty damn good defense. And Miami
Sure.
has a really good front four. I mean, Ruben Bain is a freaking monster.
Yeah. Mazador
Uh,
on the other side is beast too.
yeah, no doubt. So I think, the last time they saw a competent front four, they they didn't look real good, and Julian Sand was kind of running for his life there. But I do think the Buckeyes end up taking care of Miami, but I am going to take Miami and the points in this one. I think that
Okay.
between the Buckeyes potentially starting a little bit slow, the play calling thing, I just don't know what to necessarily think about that. And I do think that 9.5 is a lot of points against a pretty good Miami team.
Yeah.
So I am going to take Miami and the points in this one, even though I do think the Buckeyes went outright.
Yeah, I mean, well, you definitely be on the minority here, and a little shocked to hear you go against your Buckeyes, but you are very tapped into the Buckeyes, as we've seen throughout the season. Been very well when we handicap those games. Yeah, it looks like about 34% of the bets are on Miami, and obviously 65% on the Buckeyes there. Yeah, you talked about having questions about this Ohio State offense at times can struggle throughout the year, but something that I don't think will struggle and has not struggled is the defense. So my play for this game is actually going to be Miami under 1.5 touchdowns at
Ah,
plus 115
okay.
total touchdown score. That is, I thought about their team total. It's around 16 and a half, 15 and a half. It's 16 and a half. The under is very heavily juiced,
Yeah.
like minus 135. And then, 115 is, or excuse me, under 15 and a half is kind of where you're at there. I think they could kick some field goals, and like they tried to last game. I mean,
Right.
this will be in a
Right.
dome, so
Yep.
you don't have to worry about that win. They do have a
True.
good kicker. And something that has been very obvious the past few years is definitely the last two is when you get in the red zone against Ohio State, it is very
The
difficult to
wall.
score. I understand that Miami, they can have some big plays, but that's not really their strong suit.
Yeah.
Malachi Tony is very electric, but I think they're going to be settling for a lot of field goals in this game. So I do also didn't mind the under overall as a play. My concern is when we look at this Miami passing defense. Miami passing defense is giving up almost 200 yards per game. They're a very middling passing defense, basically relying on their front four. Some question
Yeah.
marks in the coverage, even though getting Scott back in the secondary was big. I have a little bit of concerns that Ohio State's wide receivers might be able to feast a little bit. But I think ultimately, give me
Are they
Miami.
are they any good?
The Ohio State wide receivers, if they can get the ball, man, yeah, I'm hoping that at least one of them maybe can line up on the Giants here in the next couple of years. But in Cardinal
I
Tate,
I
but
Oh, I would have went for the other one in the next couple years.
that's true. Well, Smith, but I mean, we need help now. We need help 3 years ago, so I can't be waiting too
Yeah.
long there. But yeah, I just think ultimately Ohio State has only given up. They've only allowed a team to score more than 2 touchdowns, I believe, twice all season.
Yeah.
Illinois and Penn State. And that was Penn State's the rivalry game where they were kind of sleeping through it. They kind of didn't expect
In
a
the
whole
first half,
lot.
yeah.
Illinois was very much a backdoor type of situation. This is the college football playoff. I don't think they're going to take their foot on the gas at all. So typically last episode we did game picks and I gave out some player props in Pennsylvania right now, so don't have the access to the lines.
Yep.
But what I will talk about for each game is just kind of things that I will be targeting and be betting on once I get back home. Carson Beck's interceptions in this one is going to be the main target for me. I'm sure you can attest to this, but talked about in the 2 losses Miami's had. He's had 6 interceptions in those losses. I do think this is a game where, he threw some turnover worthy. They didn't really have to throw actually at all
Yeah.
much, but he still kind of floated some balls. And I do think that, in a high pressure situation, he's not a quarterback that I want to be backing. This Ohio State secondary, they are the number one scoring defense in the land. They're the number one pass defense in the country, number
Yep.
5 in the rushing game. So look, it's hard to run on them, yes. And then if you're going to throw the ball, which I expect Miami to have to throw the ball at some point,
Yep.
it's very difficult. And if you're going to
Especially
throw some of those
especially when
balls,
Ohio State basically has 5.5 defensive backs on the field at all times. Like, yes, Jermaine Matthews and Sanchez and Igbinosun and Downs are all really good players,
right?
traditional secondary players. But a guy in Sonny Styles at linebacker, I mean, he came into Ohio State and played the first 2 or 3 years as a safety and
Yeah.
just kept growing and growing and growing. And now he's one of the best middle linebackers in the country.
Yep.
So he can definitely get his hands on the rock too.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's a great call there. So yeah, now Harson Beck interception, and then I'm sure it will be maybe juice, but in the DGen play would be multiple interceptions, 2+ interceptions there. If you can find a market that offers it, hopefully
Yeah.
it was. I know it's been last week. It was definitely a nice kind of menu they were offering most sports books. So wish I had the lines for you guys, but unfortunately,
Yeah.
it's the holidays. Stuff's a little weird, so not a thing. Pennsylvania, but look.
Not
Derek
taking
is
Ohio
on
either.
Miami plus the 9.5 against his Buckeyes. I'm on Miami under 1.5 touchdowns at plus 115. I will also be playing the Carson Beck interceptions and laddering that up for a little bit of some degeneracy fun there.
Okay.
Okay, we're moving over to the Thursday game. It looks like college football is trying to keep with some traditions of New Year's Eve, New Year's games, which most
Yep.
of us should have off, so should be fine. I know it is a little bit weird to call Wednesday,
Although
Thursday.
it would be nice if my Buckeyes didn't play on New Year's Eve one time. I mean,
Right,
I think they have basically every year that they've been in the college football playoff. And it's, my family gets together and we throw a big party. And it would be nice just to have party one day and then turn around and have another party the next day.
right.
But
There you go. Extend the fun down. So
that's right.
come on, college football playoff. Can't you realize that you need to
That's
work
right.
around Derek's family's plans?
Exactly.
All right. Moving into this next slate, Thursday, January 1st, 12 p.m. Eastern time. We have got, I haven't even been saying the bowl games, probably because they're extra irrelevant. But the first game was the
Cotton Bowl.
Cotton Bowl, and this game is the Capital One Orange Bowl. So now in the Orange Bowl here, which obviously is in Hard Rock Stadium in Miami Gardens, Florida, we've got number 5 Oregon, 12-1 team heading to take on the 12-1 number 4 team in the land, Texas Tech Red Raiders. You've got Oregon as the favorite here.
Yep.
Obviously neutral site, no real home away. Oregon laying 2.5 minus 125 on the money line. Texas Tech is catching 2.5 plus 105 as the slight dog. Over under sitting at 52.5 here. It's going to be 69 and sunny in beautiful Miami, Florida there. So no real concerns about the weather. Where are you going in this one?
Yeah, this was one that, again, I talked about it a little bit ago, and with that whole rest versus rust thing. I mean, Oregon did exactly what they were supposed to, exactly what we all expected
Okay.
against JMU about a week ago. And Texas Tech hasn't played in 3.5 weeks, so I do think that Texas Tech's offense might struggle a little bit to get going in the first half. I think overall, Texas Tech has one of the best defenses in the country. Oregon has a pretty damn good defense too, though. And I
Yep.
think with them playing, just a week or so ago, I think their offense is already in third gear. And at the end of the day, I'll take Dante Moore as the better quarterback versus Morton there. So give me the Oregon Ducks laying the 2.5.
Yeah, this will be where we disagree. I'm all over
Ooh,
Texas Tech. I love
okay.
Texas Tech in this one. The only game Texas Tech has lost, the only game they've looked pedestrian was when they had their backup quarterback. I still think Oregon is a fraudulent team. Looking through Oregon's schedule, they've played one playoff team and they lost to that playoff team. That was Indiana at home by 10. I do recognize Indiana is a very good team,
Yep.
but to go on the road at Penn State and need 2 overtimes to get that done. Happy Valley is a hard place to play, but that obviously is not as impressive. The Iowa win, 2-point win to need the last time. I like Iowa, but again, it's not like they're a national title contender. USC, Washington. I just think their schedule is a bit fraudulent. Getting JMU there, not a JMU, a decent team, but again, not the level of quality here. Texas Tech.
I would also argue that Texas Tech's schedule might be a little fraudulent. I mean, I know that they beat BYU a couple times, but Oregon did have to go to Kinnick and got a big win at Iowa. They
True.
took care of USC, which was a top 15, top 20 team pretty much all year. But anyways,
Yeah, no, I mean that you can definitely make the argument, right? Because now we're talking bottom half of the Big Ten and then the Big 12, right? So where are we going there? I just think that Texas Tech has been a dominant team all year. The one time they tripped up was, again with the backup quarterback at a Arizona State who was in the college football playoff last year. And I do think BYU is a pretty damn good team, and they have destroyed BYU twice now. So I just think that Texas Tech has a lot of things rolling right now. And when you're talking about it, right, both these teams' defenses are rock solid.
yeah.
Oregon, top 10 scoring defense. They do have some vulnerability in the running defense department, but pretty solid in the pass defense. Texas Tech side, number 3 scoring defense, number 1 rush defense in the country, a little bit susceptible in the pass defense. And when you look at Oregon typically wants to run the ball. They're a top 15 rush offense there. So I think that's a little bit of some strength on strength. They're a middling kind of pass offense. And in the flip side there, Texas Tech also kind of likes to run the ball. So this is a matchup at this point where it's a lot of heavyweights, right? So all these teams are going to be in the top 10s, top 15s of a lot of different categories. But ultimately, I think Texas Tech is the more proven veteran team. That linebacking core is, especially led by Evan Rodriguez, is it just someone I'm not going to be fading right now. So give me Texas Tech on the money line plus 105 in the Orange Bowl. This one, spread tells us, should be the closest.
Yeah.
And I do think it's going to be an absolute dogfight till the end. I ultimately think that give me Baron Morton and his 18 years in college football to get
Yeah.
it done, but really led by that Texas Tech defense. I think Dante Moore is going to make a few mistakes, the young quarterback who's super talented. I just don't think he's seen a defense of this caliber. So we're going to
Yeah. No.
disagree here.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's a reason why I took both Texas Tech and Oregon as futures, because I do think both of these teams are really solid, and it'll be interesting to see which team prevails come New Year's Day. I think this one will be a close one, but anyways,
No, yeah, no,
on to the next one.
I do think. And now the next one, one of the best venues, one of the best games in all of college football. We're headed to the Rose Bowl Thursday, January 1st, 4 p.m. Eastern time. We've got 11-3, number 9 Alabama Crimson Tide taking on the 13-0, number 1 Indiana Hoosiers. Who in the world would have thought that? And that Alabama is a underdog here, 6.5-point underdog, plus 200 on the money line, over under sitting at 48.5. Indiana laying 6.5, minus 245. To think about this game 10 years ago, 15 years ago would be absolutely
Even 3
absurd.
years ago.
And the funniest part is that if you just look at it this season, I don't know why the spread isn't bigger.
Yeah.
But we've got 56 and cloudy in the Rose Bowl in beautiful Pasadena, California. Where are you going in the granddaddy of them all?
Yeah, before I get into that, I just have a quick question. Do you have the betting splits for this game?
I will look. I will look
All
in,
right,
in
you
right
look
now.
for that, and I'll give my synopsis here. Yeah, I think as a whole, I think this is a really bad matchup for Alabama. I think Indiana's front seven defensively is one of the best in the country, and Alabama has struggled when uh, when Simpson has as pressure in his face. They've
Yeah. Oh yeah.
struggled to run the ball for the majority of the year. Again, Indiana's rush defense is really, really solid. And I think that Alabama has shown that they can play defense. They can play really, really good defense, but they've struggled at times as well. And I think that even with a little bit of rest, Mendoza is kind of the odds-on favorite to be the number 1 overall pick in
Yeah.
this coming draft.
Heisman.
He's going to be able to figure Alabama's defense out at at some point throughout this game. I do think that it'll be interesting though to see. Kurt Signetti and that Indiana team has had a little bit more of more expectations this
Sure.
season than they have of last. But when was the last time that they were a favorite in a matchup like this. You know,
in the
I
Rose
just
Bowl,
don't
right?
know. I just don't know how they're necessarily going to come out after taking a month off. I do think they figure it out though. So I am going to take Indiana, laying the 6.5 in this one. Did you find those betting splits?
Yeah, it was actually right down the middle according to DraftKings, 50-50.
Well,
For
that
the
I
bet.
kind of figured it was pretty close. I mean, this line opened up at 6.5 and it stayed
Yeah.
right there. Hasn't
Yeah.
moved an inch. So yeah, I was kind of surprised by that. You know, we talked a little bit ago about Alabama having the bigger market, the bigger name, you
The
know,
logo holds
the
weight here.
logo exactly. Where Indiana, they showed that they can take some of these big logo teams out, like an Oregon, like an Ohio State, but laying 6.5 is quite a bit against one of those bigger schools.
Yeah. No, I the history and the
Yeah.
logo and the expectations, I get it. But
Mhm.
if you look at this season,
Yep.
I think Indiana is far and above the better team.
Yeah.
We talked about it really throughout the season. That Big Ten championship game, I thought those were likely the two best teams in the country.
Yep.
It was a dogfight. I understand Stephen Daly is now out for the year. It's a loss. But again, Signetti and this team, they're more than one player.
Yep.
And I love Indiana here. Give me Indiana minus the 6.5. Um, Alabama, again, probably shouldn't have been in. I think that there was a very strong case. You know, that Georgia win when they were the number one team really holds a lot of weight. And then they came out and got their tar kicked in,
Yeah.
right? In that
Oh yeah.
SEC championship. I get avenging the Oklahoma loss, but Oklahoma doesn't drop that punt. They don't drop that walk in touchdown. You know, I think there might be a little bit differently here. That game didn't make me think that Alabama suddenly fixed all their problems,
Sure.
right?
Yep.
Now,
Yep.
Alabama, one of the big differences here, you said they can't run the ball, right? So it makes
Yep.
them one dimensional. You'd have the number two scoring defense in the country in Indiana that now makes the team one dimensional.
Right.
And they're still a top 20 pass defense. And now the biggest thing that I see is the Indiana Hoosiers are a top 10 rush offense. And this rush defense, giving up over 120 yards, is a very
Mhm.
middling rush defense.
Yeah.
I have questions on the line of scrimmage. I think Indiana's better on the line of scrimmage. I think they're going to be able to push around Alabama. And when Simpson and that offense becomes one dimensional and they have to throw the ball, we
Yeah.
sometimes see those turnovers like we
Sitting
saw
down.
against
Yep.
Oklahoma, right? So I think that this could get ugly, and I think Indiana ultimately is a much better team. Give me Indiana minus the 6.5 there. Did you say what side you're on here?
Yeah. Indiana laying the 6.
Minus the 6. Good. All right. And then so player prop wise here, just to discuss, I'm gonna go Mendoza anytime touchdown, assuming there's not crazy juice. You know, he's got 6 touchdowns
Ooh.
on the year. He's
Yeah.
got that fresh new Heisman in there that he can be toting around. We saw John Mateer be able to get loose and score the first touchdown in that last game there.
Yeah.
They've got really kind of a myriad of backs. That's kind of one of the better parts of their offense is they don't rely solely on one player.
Right.
There's a lot of guys that can do some damage on the ground. So I think that's going to confuse the
There will
Alabama
be one
defense.
guy that is on the field every single play.
Exactly. So always love the quarterback rushing, especially in the big
Yeah.
moment, coming off the Heisman there. So that's probably the play I will be targeting in that one. All right, moving on to the last game on our slate here, last college football round 2 playoff game. We've got a rematch here because we've got Ole Miss, Georgia in what this should be, I would imagine, the Fiesta Bowl. Again, I did not prep that portion of it, but
Yep.
the All-State Sugar Bowl.
Sugar
Okay.
Bowl.
Sugar Bowl. Here we go. So we've got the 12-1 number 6 team in the country, the Ole Miss Rebels, taking on the 12-1 number 3 team in the country, Georgia Bulldogs here. Georgia, team that hasn't played in also a month, coming off the SEC championship. And Ole Miss playing a week and a half ago, taking down Tulane. You've got Ole Miss laying 6.5 plus 205 on the money line. Georgia minus 250 the other way. Over under sitting at 55.5. This is in the Caesars Superdome over there in New Orleans, Louisiana, not Los Angeles. NOLA there. Where are we going in this one? Obviously, it's in a dome. No need to be
Yep.
worried about weather or anything of the sort.
Yep.
This game was played this season in Georgia, in Athens, between the hedges.
Yep.
Georgia won 43-35 after it being an absolute shootout, and Ole Miss being up by almost multiple scores at one point, and then just not making the plays in the fourth quarter. Where are you going in this one?
Yeah, Ole Miss was up by 2 scores going into the fourth quarter. I believe they were leading by 11
Yeah.
going into the fourth quarter. End up Georgia won by 8.
Yep.
But yeah, I think the big thing was in the second half, Georgia figured out this this Ole Miss offense. Excuse me, Georgia's defense really stepped up, especially in the fourth quarter. Basically, the difference in that game was Georgia kept moving the ball in a shootout in the fourth quarter, where Ole Miss I think only had like 9 or 10 plays because they couldn't get a first down. And I think overall, Kirby Smart is probably a top 5 coach, if not a top 3 coach in the country.
Yeah.
And I think with this whole playoff situation, not playing for 3 or 4 weeks at a time, Kirby Smart's been there. He's done that. He's figured out how
Yep.
to manage that schedule and manage his players. And even though Ole Miss just played a week and a half ago. Like, this is Golding's first time doing this. It's
Yeah.
his first time coaching after a win. This is his
Yeah.
first
Being a
time
head coach.
coaching,
Yeah.
yeah, as a whole. So I think I'm going to take Kirby Smart and his knowledge of the playoff system, his defense. I know that Ole Miss's defense hasn't looked great at a time, and there's a reason why it was a shootout through the first 3 quarters, and Georgia continued that through the rest of the game there. So I will take Georgia laying the 6.5 in this one as well.
Yeah, this was a tough one to pick because I think
It was.
there is a clear coaching advantage. You have someone who's been there very often and one of the better coaches in college football, and you have
Yep.
a newbie, a coordinator. Guy's been a coordinator his whole life, good defensive coordinator, but
Yeah.
it's not the same. We've seen that multiple times where coordinators
Yep.
try to be a head coach and it just does not work out. Coming off of all the changes and now not in a short week, you still got the week and a half to prepare, but it
Right.
is different preparing for Tulane than Georgia. I think anyone can say that.
For sure.
I'm going to go the over for 55.5 here.
Okay.
I think
Soared over this number in their first matchup.
it did, and I don't want to just rely on that, but
Yeah.
I kind of was talking about this the last time we broke this game down. But what does Georgia typically want to do? They want to run the ball, right? They have a myriad of backs there. Gunnar Stockton can run the
Yep.
ball. They are top 25 rush offense for almost 200 yards a game. And what does Ole Miss struggle to do? They struggle in rush defense. They're not even middling. They're a bad rush defense. They give up 147.8 yards a game, so almost 150 yards a game on the ground. We saw Tulane have success on the ground. They kind of got away from it due to the score and everything going on there.
Yep.
So I think Georgia's going to be able to run the ball and kind
Yep.
of, run that play action that they like to run and get some explosive plays in that way. And then the other side, you have the Georgia defense, which top 10 scoring defense. However, they're not a very good pass defense. They give
Yep.
up over 200 yards through the air, and we saw Trinidad Chambliss and this Ole Miss offense exploit that in the last matchup.
Yep.
They're the number 2 offense in terms of yards, or top 10 scoring offense for Ole Miss, and they are the number 3 passing offense in the country, averaging over 300 yards. So I think Ole Miss is going to be able to pass the ball, and I think Georgia is going to be able to run the ball, much like what happened in the last matchup there. So I'm going to go the over 55.5. This just came down a little bit. I think it opened at 56.5 there. As far as a player prop guy, I'm going to be targeting, it's going to be Nate Frazier over his rushing yards, whatever that line may be. He's the guy that gets the most amount of carries. He's gotten double-digit carries the past, mostly all season. He's been the lead back. I know Bowens and Stockton and a couple other guys will touch the rock, but I think he's the most reliable guy, and he's someone that was able to go off against them last time they played and is just going to consistently wear down that rush defense that has some question marks there. So that's the play I'm going to be going here, but I do expect there to be points in this one. Now, it's hard for me I'll never root for Georgia, because as a Florida Gator fan, so it's hard for me I'm going to say this game is a bit of a toss-up here, and I think it's because it could be a shootout. And when it's a shootout, it's kind of who gets the ball last, right?
Yep.
So that's why I think this game could go. But, I think your point to Kirby Smart versus Pete Golding can't be overlooked in that aspect, as much as it pains me to say.
Yep.
But
yeah, it's that new coach bump is gone after the Tulane game, a week ago. So
yeah, no, you're right. So it's the real test for Pete Golding here.
no
All
doubt.
right, we're moving on to the best bet segment of the show here as we wrap on up. We're both going to give out a lock, a moneyline dog, and a parlay. and get on out of here. So why don't
Yep.
I let you start, my friend? Where are you taking us for your lock of the college football round 2 playoffs?
Yeah, let me go ahead and take the Oregon Ducks laying the
Okay.
or yeah, laying the 2.5. I think that with them just playing a week ago, taking care of business, they got a little bit of rest in the second half against JMU. I think they're ready to rock and roll against the Red Raiders.
Well, this will be fun. I don't know if this has happened this season because my lock is going to be directly opposing your lock.
That has not happened.
I am on the Texas Tech. It was only 4 games, so I'm on Texas Tech money line plus the 105 there. I don't need the damn points. Texas Tech's not going to need the damn points. They're taking this on the money line plus 105 there. I just think ultimately that defense is something that Dante Moore has not seen this season. Give me the veteran quarterback under the young prospect there. Yeah, Texas Tech plus 105 to keep both our futures alive.
Yep.
Moneyline dog or just the dog here? Where are you going?
Yeah, I mean, if anybody has been keeping track here, I have taken all of the favorites outright. I did take Miami as a dog, but I also mentioned that I think the Buckeyes went outright. So I don't really have a traditional dog play this week, but I went ahead and teased Indiana up to 12.5, a little pleaser there. I think that Indiana ultimately takes care of business against the Crimson Tide.
Yeah. No, and I guess I really haven't been other than Texas Tech, a small dog there, haven't really been on any dogs either. So mine is gonna be Ole Miss. Give me Ole Miss money
Okay.
line plus the 210 here. I'm gonna roll the dice with Ole Miss. I understand that we talked about the coaching side that makes me
Yep.
a little bit uneasy there, but I think when you have an offense as explosive as Ole Miss that can, take advantage of this Georgia secondary, and
Yeah.
they've shown it.
Yep.
Really, if you go back and watch that game, there was one fourth down play that would have won it for Ole Miss. Georgia was going for it on 4th and 1. The
Yep.
dude got hit in the backfield, and he just, on his credit, made a great effort and barely got it, and that kind of switched the game for them.
Yeah.
So I think this was a very coin flip game last week. Now we're
Yep.
in a neutral site. That was in Athens, Georgia, and
Right.
this is now in Louisiana. I expect
To
both
your
these teams to travel there. So
Yeah, yeah, no, to your point, I mean, Georgia came out of that game with just around 500 yards of total offense, 510 to be exact. And
yeah,
Ole Miss didn't move the ball hardly at all. I think they had like 8 total yards in the fourth quarter, but they still had 351 yards throughout the game. So,
yeah.
yeah, I think both of these teams, especially the neutral site, I don't mind that play.
And a little bit of the dart throw there, but I think that legitimately that's the one I think has the best chance on the money line outside of Texas Tech, which is a yapper. We're not
Yep.
giving that out here. All right, what's the parlay to get us out of here?
Yeah, I just took all of my plays or all of the favorites and put them in a money line parlay. So OSU, Oregon, Indiana, and Georgia to win on the money line is plus 354.
The chalk parlay of all chalk
Just pick
parlays.
the top
Hopefully,
four.
you did not take the NFL chalk parlay that did not come through yesterday. So,
Not even-
for me, I am going to take a little bit of what I like, take a little bit of what you like. Texas Tech minus 2.5 on the alt spread, and then I'm going to take Indiana minus 13.5 there. So a
Okay.
little bit like your pleaser angle. That is plus 532 if you combine Texas Tech minus 2.5, Indiana minus 13.5 there. I do think that Tech wins by at least a field goal, and I
Yep.
do think Indiana has the potential, like you mentioned, to rout Bama.
Yes.
I understand the logos, understand the history. I think Indiana is a much more disciplined, much more put together team, and much like we saw in the SEC championship, when Alabama is not there to play, it can get ugly.
Yep.
All right, quick recap before we get out of here. Derek that's not yours, that's mine. Lock of the week, Oregon minus 2.5. The dog is Indiana minus 12.5 at plus 156. And the chalk parlay of the week to take all
Right.
the favorites on the money line plus 354 for myself here. We'll be doing locks here. We'll have a lock battle per se.
That's right.
Texas Tech money line plus 105. Ole Miss on the money line plus 210. And then a little bit of a pleaser in Texas Tech and Indiana plus 532. All right, what do you got for the people before we get on out of here?
Yeah, as you continue to spend time with your family and friends in this holiday season, make sure you just recommend that they come on over to the channel, check out the DGen docs, make sure they subscribe because we're giving out all of these plays for free. You just make money. off of our plays, and it's great time. So what better way to, provide one extra gift to your friends or your family? Just make sure they're 21 or over.
Responsible sharing.
Make sure we're responsible. But yeah, make sure we continue to subscribe. We're getting really close to our goal. We've been chasing this all year. We're coming down to the wire here of
Yeah.
the college football season.
Yeah, you guys have been incredible all season.
No doubt.
College football has been very fun. First year, Derek and I have done this, so you guys have made this a lot of fun here. Yeah, round 2 of the playoffs. You know that national championship is 2 weeks away. As Derek breaks his setup here. But yeah, and it also, if you're interested in NFL betting, we are on a heater. Last month in the NFL, we've been hitting props and best bets at a 79% hit rate. Pretty absurd. We just hit a 34-1 DGen play last episode. So
Yep.
go check that out for NFL Week 17 if you're interested in that. And don't worry, next round of college football, we will be back all the way through the national
Oh, yeah.
championship. So we've got a ton here to check out. Let us know your picks. Let us know what you're tailing, what you're fading. And ultimately, you know what they say, folks. A lock a day keeps the bookie away. And here at the DGen Docs, we've got your prescription. From Professor Locks and Doc here on DFSG Plus, we are out of here.